Let me ask you this. One of the things that I feel like that has really distinguished Aero Bodies from some other organizations, because let's be honest, the employee wellness space is very crowded, but you all have continued to distinguish yourselves. And one of the things that you've done is really use diagnostics, critical diagnostics. And I think that's a really important thing. If they're not measuring the value of their employee wellness programs, whether we're talking about emotional, physical, or mental, because you guys are working across all three of those layers. But you really have looked at those diagnostics. What do you think is most important now? And then what about when we are going to see a return to the offices, especially with Pfizer's announcement? Some of the, we're getting close. We're getting close to making some therapeutic breakthroughs from the pharmaceutical world. So, what are those diagnostics, and how are you guys incorporating measurement to help companies build business cases around this?
That's a great question. I have another slide.
Okay, cool,
Uh,
awesome.
I was on a really interesting telecall 2 weeks ago with Herman Miller Furniture. To your point around what's happening now, what companies are thinking about? Can everybody see that? Are you good?
Oh,
Resiliency and
I actually
well-being.
can't see it yet. Can you hit?
Okay,
Oh,
great.
now I can see it. Nope, now I got it. Oh, that's beautiful. Yep, I
Yeah.
can see it.
So when you think about what we do, again, this is how we approach it because again, every company is a little bit different and what they need from an assessment scorecard piece may be different. I was blown away by this presentation by Herman Miller because they're literally looking at the footprint of organizations and how they reconfigure furniture, and they're on the upswing. Like you would think no one's in these offices, and so why would people be buying furniture? Not so true, because they're looking at how employers want to reassess when they do bring people back to work, what that looks like. And so they're doing things like this asset review we have here. We do asset reviews when it comes to well-being programs, what they already have in place. We do productivity scorecards and things of that nature. We do, obviously the coaching and training piece. So again, I think it's really important for business owners to really look at not just what the solutions are you can provide, but look at what organizations are already doing. Maybe there's a legacy program. How do you go in and audit that and then provide some sort of recommendation or a diagnostic to them? Don't go in and automatically think you have to have all the ideas. I always tell my team, look, you don't need to be the most brilliant person in the room. I hate being the most brilliant person in the room because I'm not learning anything else. So I want to see what other people are doing. How do we perhaps tweak that a little bit? Perhaps save them some money, which companies always love that because you keep their business longer because they see that you have really become a value added partner. But then you roll up your sleeves and really create strategy. So I created this slide with that in mind, just to think about how we provide solutions and how other organizations think about how they do that strategy piece and that audit piece going forward.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. Monica, I could not agree more with you. Monica just said, Fran, Dean Bishop, you are a genius. She is. She absolutely is, Monica. Every time I am around Fran, she shifts my mindset in so many ways. You did just blow my mind. Obviously, you know me and my that I think I'm a designer in my spare time. So I'm obsessed with Herman Miller, all things Herman Miller. You actually threw me for a loop there. I would have guessed that they were mostly sitting around trying to figure out how to offload too much inventory. This is why we do this show, because we can't be in all places and see all things. So that blew my mind a little bit. And I think, the other thing is, Deloitte came out just about a week ago with some statistics, Fran, showing that most CEOs are actually predicting they're going to be back at pre-pandemic revenue numbers by June or July of 2021. I keep saying that to people because that means they're in a go mode right now. Like companies are in a go mode, and you just, all the way down to furniture of looking at what does this look like when, and obviously Herman Miller with so much of their ergonomic pieces and very, they take a very human approach to their design. I have to ask you a question. And you may not be able to answer this. This is okay if you can't. But I'm always telling people to get themselves on webinars where they can get, inside scoops. I'm curious, was that a public facing webinar or was that through an industry association that Herman Miller hosted that webinar?
It was a industry association. However, I believe I have to go back. I believe they had links out to their website to show it because obviously they're in the business of selling furniture, right? So they have a lot of studies that they're posting that they showcase and they noted on post COVID dynamics and it was amazing. I mean, I was yeah, we have a couple offices ourselves, but I was just blown away with how they are reconfiguring modular furniture to provide the social distancing, but make people feel inclusive and connected. I mean, it was very interesting because they had stats. They had done population studies. They had done configuration studies, and it was really interesting. They had partnered with a couple construction firms, so it really realized that as a small business, always never stop now. Think 18 months from now. And that's why I always tell people, in the government space, if you're looking to get into government, you got to be thinking 18 months because it takes that long to break in. It really does. And you're not going to break in 6 months unless it's, it's by pure whatever. You're not going to break in that quickly. But you have to be thinking out 18 months. And obviously these big companies, if you think about how they're thinking about strategy, their footprint is already there. They can't, throw their company away. And so they're doing that. And they're partnering with organizations who obviously want to bring people back, but bring people back so they feel safe, so they feel comfortable, so they feel inclusive. I mean, just all of it. So it really helped me realize that from a holistic standpoint, yeah, we're going to be in this virtual environment for a while, but as we move back, what do we do to provide solutions and get in and partner now with organizations? And they realize that, what Aerobodies is there to stay. They can really help us in the bandwidth and the long term in terms of making our employees feel better once they come back into the workplace.
So good. So good. I want to take some questions. If those of you watching want to ask Fran a question, I'd love to take your questions. So you can just type them into the chat area and we can grab some of those questions. Fran, what should I have asked you about the employee physical, mental, and emotional health and well-being space that I did not ask you today that we absolutely need to talk about?
So for those, okay, that's a great question. I think for those who are on the call who are wondering, how do I get in? Where do I get in? Where's my space? In fact, I took a call from a Velocity member of yours last week who said, you know what, your company is so big. How do I even get there? And that was just funny to me. As one of your clients, that was kind of funny. But anyway, I said, you know what, you got to start somewhere. There's plenty of opportunity. Like I referenced Virgin Pulse earlier. They're one of the largest health and wellness providers in the world, right? They work with thousands of companies, but they don't have my clients, right? And my clients are global companies who see something that I bring to the table that's a nuance that they may not be able to get from a global organization. So when you think about what you're going to do and how you're going to approach perhaps this industry or any industry, what is it that you bring that's your sweet spot, your niche, your special sauce that's really different than the way other companies think? And I know what it is for us. Your listeners have to figure out what it is for them. But I think that's really important when you think about how you serve your customers well. They don't want the same old thing. Everybody's doing the same old thing. My field is, as Angelique has said, I mean, it's saturated. It's overly saturated. So I really have to think I hate that outside the box, but I have to really think innovatively and how I best serve my customers.
And what do you think? Let me talk to the corporate decision makers right now, and even some of the government, but let's talk to the corporate decision makers for just a second.
Mhm.
Today is November 11th. So we have 7 weeks left in the year. Thank
Yep.
gosh, thank gosh, because I'm so done with
Yes,
2020. We all
yes,
are, right?
I
And then I'm
agree.
going to take Shireen's question here. But, it's the last 7 weeks of the year. What would be the top, like the number one thing that you would tell every leader that they should figure out or take action on between now and December 31st?
Sit down with an organization like ours, someone on your team, or create some sort of, I would say, small group think tank in your organization. It does take more. I find a lot of times as HR managers, and HR managers are tasked with so much. They're like procurement officials. They're tasked with so much. But then when they try to take on the wellness piece, it's almost like it's just throwing it in there, and employees see the difference. It doesn't work that way. So sit down with a thought leader or an organization like ours to start talking about strategy. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. Maybe you join an executive roundtable briefing, attend a webinar, but you need to get in a space where you can talk to leaders who are having to make these critical decisions, organizations who are providing the critical solutions, and see what's working. I'm still blown away with how many organizations and HR managers may work in a silo and try to figure it out by throwing things at the at the wall and thinking that employees want that. I mean, come on, you don't want it. So what would make you think the employees would want that? And the other thing is, nobody wants you to look at, their biometrics or their health record or know what they're doing. So as HR people, please stop doing that. Stop doing it.
That is such a contrarian message, Fran, but it's a brilliant one. You know me, I love contrarian messages, right? Like I love when we say everyone is drinking the Kool-Aid and we as experts come in and say, wait a second. No, you're really one of the first people who I've heard say that. In fact, so many of these tech companies out there, all they're doing is trying to put wearables on everyone so that the person in HR knows how much water you drank today. I mean, I don't, who wants that? I think it's such a great point. Shireen has a fabulous question here. What sources should we be looking at to curate information, data, and studies to share with clients? And I love this question because this is how you establish yourself as a thought leader, even commenting on it. What are some of your favorite sources, Fran?
Well, as I mentioned before, I love the McKinsey, the Deloitte, the Ernst & Young studies. I read a plethora of periodicals. That's my go to bed usually. Financial Times. I find if you read financial magazines and literature, a lot of times they will always tie back the business case. And one of the top questions I get from buyers of our service before they can bring it in and present it to leadership is, how do I make the case to leadership that we need this? And I always say it's a business case, because most people are thinking wellness, health, oh, it's fitness, oh, it's frou-frou. Why do we need to spend money on that? So you have to make the business case. They're not going to spend 50 grand, $500,000, $1 million or more on well-being, resilience, and health if you don't make the business case. And so you need to find those financial sources to tie it back. So I would say start with those. Even your Wall Street Journal, start with those, but put in your search engine what it is specifically. What are the keywords that you're looking for? For me, it's resilience, it's well-being, it's trust, it's emotional intelligence, it's EQ, and bringing that all together. But for your organization, it could be something totally different.
Well, and to that end, I'm sure you guys have some Google alerts set up on some of these keywords because, that Cigna statistic that you shared, people wouldn't necessarily think, oh, I should go to Cigna's website today and see if they put out a press release about a new study. But when you set up those Google alerts and you have those keywords, the year and study, when something new comes out, you're going to catch it, which is so powerful. Business Wire's website, by the way, you guys, and PR Newswire's website, it's often where the big brands are releasing their big news. And Market Watch, I'm just going to throw a couple out there for you guys. I love Market Watch. I'm a big Yahoo Finance reader, as you can imagine, since I often pre-pandemic and soon to be post-pandemic am a panelist on Yahoo Finance's Wi-Fi PM show. But it's that I'm so glad you talked about the financial piece of this, Fran, because no matter what it is, I mean, employees are the most expensive resource. I mean, everybody wants to say they're the most valuable resource. Let's be clear, they're the most expensive resource that an organization has. So when you're doing something for people, it's pretty easy actually to build a business case around that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
and we have a new coin phrase, and I think this goes across all industries: one size no longer fits all.
Mm,
So when
right.
you're talking to decision makers, in my space, a lot of times I'm asked, "What's the best solution? How do I approach it?" And I use this scenario. If you have an employee, you have a mom that's at home that has two kids. What's going to work for her for resiliency and well-being is going to be very different for a mother, a woman who is a CEO of a company who's married to a first responder, who's also a caregiver. That's my circumstance, who which may be very different from a father who is just a father of one and married to a stay-at-home mom. Those cases are very different, right? So what's going to work for those employees is going to be very different. It's the same in every industry. So one size no longer fits all. If you can really help your leadership understand that and your clients understand that and really get into a strategic conversation with them, there's no question it will be a value added partnership.
Mm. Such good advice. Where and how can leaders from government and other organizations get in touch with you? And how can people follow you if they want? I mean, you're an inspiration, Fran. What your company has been able to achieve is just really mind blowing. I think we really did break people's brains a little bit at the beginning of today's show when we talked about all the things your company has done over the last 20 years. So, how can leaders of organizations, government agencies get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn is the easiest, right? So reach out to me, Fran Dean Bishop at LinkedIn. We also have a company page there where we curate and provide a lot of latest information if you want to reach us there. Our website, as Angelique knows, we've put a lot of investment into our website. So there's a lot of information there. I also mentioned that we recently stood up a new technology. So if you go to our website and just feel around, you can find a lot of information. You can reach out there. My email is franb@aerobodies.com. So feel free to reach out to me direct if you have any questions or anything like at all. And I'm always happy to have a conversation and see how we can support and help.
Oh my gosh, Fran, you are just, oh my goodness, in a league all of your own. And it's just such an honor to have you on the show. You've been so generous with all that you've shared. I can't say enough. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who came on the call today.
Thanks, guys, for being here with us, for all your great comments and your phenomenal questions. We will be back here again next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see you guys then. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.